Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to show you guys some tips and tricks on how to buy a used snowblower and what to look for and what you're going to want to stay away from. The one I bought here has everything you're going to want to stay away from, so that's kind of funny. So let's get right into the video. I will also put at the end of the video different points that you're going to want to make sure you definitely look for, because some of them, if you know how to work on equipment like this, you're not going to have to look for every single one of them, but you mostly will. So you're gonna have to look at most of them. Anyway, let's get right into the video. So here's the snowblower we're gonna be looking at today. It's a Craftsman 4 horsepower 20-inch cut, has tracks on it, which is really cool. That's kind of why I got it, not gonna lie. And over the summer we're gonna be doing a full kind of paint job and restoration so that I can sell it for top dollar next winter. So anyway, here's what you're gonna want to look for. Now this is one of the most important things, is that you're gonna want to look here where the bucket attaches to the drive base. Like at these bolts here, you're gonna want to make sure there's no cracks on this plate here, and that this doesn't have rusty holes in it, because if this has cracks and rust on it, this can actually tip forward and snap off. I've actually done it before, and then I had to get rid of the snowblower, which was kind of sad. But anyway, so you're gonna want to grab it like this right here and pull and make sure that it's nice and solid. And if it flexes around here, make sure there's no cracks in the metal. There isn't on this one, because if there's cracks here, that means this part can also fall off. So make sure that it's not too rusty. And surface rust like this is fine, but I'll show you guys on the other side, there's a big rust hole, which isn't good. And you're also going to want to look inside the chute, and if it's a plastic chute, make sure it isn't cracked around the base here, because they can get pretty expensive to replace. And if it's a metal one, a little bit of rust in here is normal. You can just paint it to make sure that the snow is nice and has a smooth surface to ride on. Okay, so that was point one. That was check for rust. Now we're gonna see, the second point is, does the engine run and does it have enough power for what you're going to do? So this one is a 4 horsepower. This thing is not that bad. It is missing one cover, which that's not a big deal. Trust me, it's fine. So make sure the engine runs, and does it have enough compression and power? So this one, I'm pretty sure most Tecumsehs are like this, but it doesn't feel like it has much compression. Like it has some, but it's not that good. That's okay. It does run, so that's kind of all that matters. And make sure, if you're buying it at the seller's house, if it sounds like it revs too high, it probably is, and then I would avoid that, because that means they probably were working the machine too hard. They were probably in a deep snowstorm that was too deep for the snowblower, and they figured out how to rev up the RPM. And you can do that for a little bit, but make sure you turn it back down after you do that, like when you're done, because if you leave it revving too fast or too long, it can snap the connecting rod in the engine, and then the machine's pretty much worthless unless you want to change the engine. Okay, so that was point two. Make sure the engine runs and is powerful enough for what you're going to do. Step 3 is make sure that the wheels or tracks are in good shape. These ones are. And also make sure that these drive wheels here aren't cracked. And I'm not sure why, but pretty much every track snowblower, these are made of plastic. And I don't know why they're made of plastic, because plastic in sub-zero conditions isn't that good. It doesn't matter what kind it is. I don't care. It still can crack. And that actually is cracked. Oh no. So we better sell it quickly. Anyway, make sure they're not cracked too bad, and make sure that the track itself isn't wrecked and has a split in it. Okay, so that was step 3. Make sure that the wheels and tracks are in good shape with whatever yours has. Next, make sure your belts are okay. So to check the belts on most snowblowers, you're going to take off the belt cover here and make sure that they're not cracked or split, because if they are, that can be a pretty big job to replace. And it's kind of a pain, especially in the middle of a snowstorm. Okay, so step number 5, make sure that the transmission can shift nice and easily, and that when you test a snowblower, make sure that it works in every gear, even like all the reverses and all the forwards and stuff. Make sure that works really good. And next, make sure the levers are nice, and make sure the cables aren't snapped. These ones are nice and thick material, which I really like, because that will really eliminate the risk of cracking them. And next, I'm going to show you guys what a bad rust spot looks like and why you're going to want to stay away from that. Okay, so I've tipped the machine up on end. You're likely not gonna have to do this when you go buy one, because you're probably gonna buy one that's in better shape than the one I got here. But anyway, make sure that the scraper bar doesn't have a gaping crack in it where you can stick your finger behind it. You don't want that, because that means this lip here, this deck is bent, and that this scraper bar is pushed out of the way. And it's even, yeah, see, look, it's grinding on the bolts here. That's not what you want. You want this to touch the ground, not like the back of the bucket here. So I'm probably gonna have to weld this at some point. But anyway, make sure that yours isn't rusted out like this, and make sure there aren't cracks like this right there. You don't want that, because this machine is all flexing when I go like this. That's not good. So you definitely don't want that. I'm gonna have to weld this or something at some point. And next, make sure that it's probably going to be okay. Make sure this belly pan isn't rusted out, because if it is, that means the machine probably lived a pretty hard life in its past. And a couple more things about the engine. If you check the oil, make sure that the oil looks decent. This one's okay. I'll change it when the season's over, but it's okay. It's good enough for now. And also, if the previous owner has a fuel filter or a fuel valve on it, that means it probably got serviced at least some point in its life, which is good. And if it doesn't have that, it probably hasn't got serviced. And make sure that you look for things that don't look stock. Like, I know this screw looks stock on top, but this one, since it's different, it doesn't look normal and it's kind of loose. That's kind of a red flag as well. And if you have an electric start, make sure it works really good, and that the gears aren't like skipping on the flywheel in there, because that can get really expensive to replace if you care about electric start. All right, so here's a quick recap of what you want to look for when buying a used 2-stage snowblower. Oh, and I forgot one more thing. So make sure the gearbox, make sure the augers aren't bent. This one is, this one's not. And as you can see, the augers, since that scraper bar is like so worn off, the augers are actually scraping the ground, which you don't want, because these augers aren't meant to scrape on the ground like a single stage is. A single stage is meant to scrape on the ground. These ones aren't. And make sure they're not bent like this one is. You can see how mangled it is versus this normal one, how it's straight here. This one's like kind of bent. And make sure, this is probably the most important thing, one of them, is make sure this gearbox is working. If the gears inside of here are stripped out, good luck finding a gear for it, especially like on an old machine like this one here. So go like this and spin it with your hands, make sure that's good. And also, when you go buy the machine, start it up and have someone hold down the auger lever, and then just watch in here to see if to see all the parts moving in unison. Make sure they're all nice and like moving good, because if they're not, that can get really expensive to replace. So a quick recap of what you want to look for is rusting in bad locations, like where the housing attaches to the drive base. You're going to want to make sure the chute's in good shape. You're going to want to make sure the engine runs well, the cables are good, the wheels and tracks are in good shape. Make sure the gearbox works, and make sure the machine is working as it should, at least if the owner says. So like in the ad, if it says working in good condition, make sure it works in good condition. And if you're not sure, you could bring someone that you know is like good with engines and snowblowers and things like that, to make sure that they think it's a good deal for you, especially if it's like a few $100s, which is expensive. So that's what you're going to want to look for when buying a used dual stage snowblower. Now here's one tip about a single stage. Make sure the paddles aren't worn out, and what I mean by that is, if you can get your finger behind the paddle, between the paddle and like the housing, that means it's probably worn out in time to get replaced. That's pretty much all you have to worry about with those, and if the scraper bar is good enough. So anyway, that's what to look for in buying a used snowblower. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.